For this iteration of our course, we've created a discussion forum called Reacting to the Terrorist Threat, which is based on a discussion exercise frequently used in in-person classes called the Fishbowl and Caucus. In this forum, we'll host a series of dialogues intended to facilitate cross-cultural communication between MOOC participants belonging to diverse backgrounds, and discussion of the ways in which our varied histories and identities impact the way we understand terrorism. Participation in this forum will form the basis of the work for your first peer assessment, so please review the instructions in this video as many times as necessary before beginning participation in the forum. As we'll discuss in many of our video lectures and discussion forum topics, terrorism is a complex and nuanced topic, and a topic that lacks a single concrete and agreed-upon definition or standard of evaluation. As such, our personal experiences, our social identities, and our implicit and explicit biases play an important role in the way we understand terrorism and the way we discuss the topic with others. We wanted to provide a safe space on the discussion forum dedicated specifically to sharing and assessing personal experiences and interpretations of terrorism. Given the vast reach this MOOC had in its first iteration, which you can see here, we also wanted to create a structure that would emphasize cross-cultural communication and discussion of these personal experiences across geographic boundaries. So we've created 13 forum threads, dividing our initial phase of discussion into the regions that our researchers created for coding and classifying terrorism in the Global Terrorism Database. In the first of 3 phases in this exercise, we'd like to ask you to choose a forum designated by a geographic region in which you have lived, worked, studied, or traveled extensively. Phase 1 will take place soon after the course starts, beginning on January 14th, and will last for 10 days, concluding on January 25th. For this phase, we expect that many of you will choose the region in which you currently live, but we also welcome you to select a region in which you've previously lived or spent significant amounts of time. We'd then like to ask you to engage in a discussion guided by the following questions. What is your personal experience with terrorism, or what is its prevalence in your region? How would you rate the level of fear over the threat of terrorism in your daily life, in your community, within your region? How do you think the rest of the world perceives the threat of terrorism in your region? Do you think there are misconceptions or generalizations? What would you want to clarify or let someone unfamiliar with the problem know in terms of how they associate terrorism with your region? During Phase 1, we ask you not to comment in other forums. This is the, quote, fishbowl portion of the exercise. We will encourage 13 separate discussions among those of you self-identifying as, quote, from or, quote, experienced in each region. At the same time, we'll encourage you to observe the other discussions as if they were happening in front of you in a fishbowl. Phase 2 will begin after 10 days on January 26th, and here we begin the caucus portion of our exercise. At this point, we'll ask you to select 2 more regions, review the dialogue in the forums from Phase 1 in each, and then begin commenting on what you see there. We will ask you between January 26th and February 1st to make at least one post in each region you've selected in which you discuss any trends you've observed in the discussion, as well as insights or knowledge you've gained from reading the dialogue. We encourage you to post more than once if you find an interesting dialogue to engage in. After 1 week, we'll begin a 3rd phase in which we will ask you to select 2 more regions and repeat the process from Phase 2. Select your new regions, then review the Phase 1 dialogue and the Phase 2 discussion posts in each, and begin commenting on what you see. We will ask you during Phase 3, between February 2nd and February 8th, to make at least one post in each of your selected regional forums, again discussing trends you've observed in the discussion and insights or knowledge you've gained from reading the dialogue. As in Phase 2, we encourage you to post more than once if you find an interesting dialogue to engage in. Once all 3 phases are complete, we will ask you to reflect on the experience in your first peer assessment. In that assignment, we'll ask you to provide us with a reflection of your experiences in the regions you observed and participated in. We will also ask you to consider the trends or patterns you identified in the regional conversations you participated in, as well as individual posts that gave you new perspectives on terrorism and on other world cultures. Please note that our goal in creating this assignment is to emphasize the importance of personal responses to, experiences of, and reactions to terrorism. We will have many discussions during this course that focus on academic interpretations and analyses of terrorism, and we will likely also have many discussions during this course that focus on the way in which practitioners address and understand terrorism and related concepts, and how that plays out in their day-to-day hands-on decision-making. We've added this exercise in order to give you a chance to think purely about your personal experiences with and perceptions of terrorism. So we encourage you to think about and post thoughts and experiences that are personally meaningful to you, as well as to think about and engage with the personally meaningful experiences of others. It's our hope that this process will help you explore your individual experiences with and understandings of terrorism, and then help you compare and contrast them with the experiences and understandings of others. We hope that by examining commonalities and differences between our experiences, we'll be able to conceptualize some of the ways in which our perspectives shape our understandings of terrorism and related concepts. Please note that our goal in initiating these conversations, in which we ask you to, quote, react to terrorism, is to allow you to come to individual conclusions while considering different viewpoints. We ask that you do not discount or discredit the responses of your peers. And we ask that, in participating in these dialogues, you agree to actively engage with other students in an environment that is safe and respectful while you share an honest and thoughtful conversation. You are allowed to disagree or acknowledge conflict, but it should not negatively impact the way any individual or group feels or interacts. And one last note, please use the administrative questions subforum to ask any questions or raise any concerns you may have during the course of the exercise. We look forward to participating in a meaningful dialogue.